college, the workload can often seem overwhelming. In order to tackle all your projects, papers, and readings, you'll have to develop new methods for quickly absorbing and synthesizing information. One of these methods is learning to read scholarly articles efficiently and effectively. A scholarly article, which is also called an academic or peer-reviewed article, presents original research by a scholar. The form that this scholarship takes can vary significantly from discipline to discipline. In the arts and humanities, authors present arguments that build on evidence from existing scholarship and primary sources. Their work will often read like a traditional essay. In the social and physical sciences, authors describe and present findings from original studies that contribute new data and observations to the scholarly knowledge on a topic. After writing the article, authors submit their manuscripts to an academic journal, where they go through an editorial and peer review process, meaning that scholars with similar expertise read the work and determine if it meets the standards of the field. Once the article is published, other interested scholars can respond to and build upon the findings in their own work. This ongoing dialogue is referred to as the scholarly conversation. In order to make them easier to read, scholarly articles tend to have a few key elements that are clearly identified and provide a consistent structure. These include the name of the journal, as well as the publication date and issue information, an article title, an abstract, which is a one-paragraph summary of the article, an introduction where the author contextualizes their research question and the goals of the article, a conclusion where the author summarizes their research, discusses any takeaways, and talks about next steps for future scholarship. And finally, a bibliography or references section where the author cites the sources they relied on. Most articles will also include a literature review, which is a summary of the previous scholarly research or conversation on the article's topic. However, not all articles will have a separate section for the literature review, and may instead incorporate it into the introduction or main text. Scholarly articles in the social and physical sciences, since they typically outline studies or experiments, are likely to follow an even more consistent structure. Additional sections you can expect include a methods or methodology section where the authors detail how they conducted their research, a results or findings section where data from the study is presented, and a discussion where data is analyzed and related back to the existing scholarship on the topic. As a student researcher, your job will be to interpret, synthesize, and draw conclusions from existing scholarship. In order to do so quickly, your approach to reading academic sources will differ from how you read for pleasure. Instead of reading every word in an article from beginning to end, you can use its structure to read strategically. This will allow you to grasp the overall point without getting bogged down in the details. We recommend taking the following approach to reading scholarly articles. First, read the article and journal titles carefully. This may seem obvious, but a well-written article title acts as a one-sentence summary of the paper and can give you a sense of whether it is relevant to your research. The journal title can help you understand the disciplinary approach of the article. Next, carefully read the abstract. This is the best way to determine whether you should spend more time on an article. The abstract provides a summary of the article's main argument, the evidence it draws on, and the author's conclusions. In many cases, the structure of the abstract will mirror the structure of the article, giving you an idea of what to expect later on. Before going on to the rest of the article, take a minute to write down a one-sentence summary of the abstract, giving your sense of the author's argument and the point of their research in your own words. If, after reading the abstract, you think the article sounds relevant, skip to the conclusion. This may seem backwards, but a good conclusion will summarize the author's findings and tell you why their work is important. Plus, knowing where the author ends up will help you understand how they got there. As you did with the abstract, spend a minute summarizing each paragraph of the conclusion. Then, summarize the entire conclusion in a single sentence. This will help you retain what you just read and quickly remember the author's conclusions when revisiting it later. Next, skim the introduction and literature review. This will show you how the author is contextualizing their work and who they're in dialogue with. Read the first and last sentences of each paragraph in these sections. After skimming, go back and spend more time on the paragraphs that seem most relevant to your topic. The literature review is a good place to find additional articles and sources to use in your research. If a source seems relevant, be sure to copy the citation from the article's bibliography for easy reference. If the article contains a methods or results section, you can likely skip or skim quickly through these sections. They're generally meant for peer academics who want to look at the raw data and test the author's findings. However, if these sections contain visualizations, images, or tables that summarize the data, you may find it useful to spend some extra time with them. Finally, if you found the article helpful to your research, be sure to skim the references at the end of the paper, noting any that seem interesting. This is an easy way to quickly add to your own list of potential sources, and get a better sense of the scholars, journals, and disciplines the author is engaging with. Overall, following this method should help you move through your readings efficiently while retaining relevant information. Note that not all scholarly sources, such as books, edited collections of essays, and some journal articles, will have the structure we have outlined. You can adapt the method when approaching these sources. Read the introduction and conclusion, then skim for relevant sections to read more deeply, stopping periodically to summarize key paragraphs or arguments. Good luck!